So, how can it help to get people more involved in tackling climate change?
Right. Well, I'm sorry, Lawrence, I'm still a little stuck. I'm trying to figure out why am I the one that had to travel for this discussion? I think I know. And I'm fine with it, John. I really am.
That's right. Your raise is still intact, I think.
But I'm sorry, Lawrence. Getting back to your question, back to some comments that both the Vice President and John both made. The great opportunity that we have is we have people, citizens, who are connected. And as John mentioned, via social networking and other tools, they want to get engaged in issues that they feel passionate about. I think we've seen that on so many recent issues that have been affecting the nation and the world. The great thing about collaborative capabilities is that it does allow you to do that real time and to share information. I think one of the things that we've seen at Cisco is that those answers don't necessarily come from all of the places that you exactly expect. We recently at the company have created something that we call an eco board. It's a cross-functional team representing multiple functions across the company. About 15 to 20 individuals are involved. And it is so interesting to see where we're getting ideas in various pockets of just Cisco in terms of what we can do differently as a company. Not only in the way that we operate our business, but also in the types of products that we develop and then the types of ideas that we give to our customers. I think the way we like to think about it as Cisco, as I mentioned to the audience here a little bit earlier, is that if it can be connected, it can be green. And I think historically we've thought of that, well, if it's a device, then of course we can monitor and manage it. But it's also true with people. I think that when you make people aware of their energy consumption, when you make people aware of how they can change their lifestyle, they begin to understand what other people are doing, I think they can become green, and they're happy to do so. The value of social networking, collaborative tools, all of these things is it allows our awareness to go up. And when that happens, we can create new ideas together.
Okay, well, a question raised by Alex in London, and this is a hoary old question that you've all heard before, but still an important one. I'll put it first to Mr. Gore, if I might. How do you think of the roles of innovation on the one hand as against regulation? Industrial regulating industry. How do they pan out when you're looking at the issue of climate change?
Well, I think that they have to be. I think we have to have both, Lawrence. I'm a big fan of innovation, and I think it will probably play the key role. But we need regulatory and legal and policy changes, and even global treaties, in order to establish rules of the road that are fair to the innovators, in the sense that they need a market that doesn't shut them out by massively subsidizing older, legacy, polluting technologies that have caused the problem and continue to add to the problem. I was just in India just a few days ago talking with leaders of the government there, business leaders and others, giving my slideshow, training people to give my slideshow in the 14 different official languages of India. And they have a current policy that subsidizes the purchase of kerosene by people throughout India for their use as fuel. Well, some of my fellow environmental advocates over there have developed these fantastic solar lanterns and solar cookers, and people prefer them when they can get them. But if the government policy is to subsidize the dirtiest possible old carbon-based fuel, then that innovation, which is very attractive in a totally free market where everything's on a level playing field, has a hard time breaking into the marketplace. So we really need both innovation and policy changes. Here in the United States, we also subsidize carbon-based fuels. And some of the very attractive new technologies bear heavy front-end research and development costs. So a tax credit for offsetting some of the R&D expenses that we want to see going into innovation really makes a lot of sense, in my opinion, as a policy. Now, I do think that one other point on this, and it's a big subject, and we could talk about it usefully for quite a while, but I know our time constraints, so I'll just make one other point. CO2, the principal global warming pollution, is invisible, tasteless, odorless, and has no price tag, so it's invisible to the markets. As a consequence, it is not taken into account in the daily decisions that are made either by government or by business. Now, business, as I said, is ahead, and they're beginning to proactively reduce CO2. But as consumers, each of us need a way to get a price signal that will alert us to the CO2 consequences of the choices we make. So I've advocated a bold policy change that I think would unleash a lot of innovation, and it wouldn't raise taxes. The revenue would be neutral, but it would shift to the source of that revenue. And I know this sounds like a bigger idea than the political system can accommodate, but I really strongly believe the single best thing we could do in every country, and starting in the United States, is to reduce taxes on businesses and on employees, and then replace every dollar of that revenue with pollution taxes, principally CO2 taxes, and have the transition arrangements for those that have adjustment costs, but have a revenue neutral approach that discourages what we want less of and encourages what we want more of. And if we put a price on carbon, it will require government and policy initiatives, but that would unleash the innovations for solar concentrating, thermal electric power, for photovoltaics, for wind energy, small and large, for conservation and efficiency, and teleconferencing and the many information technology applications that can reduce CO2. All of our choices would instantly be clarified if we put a price on carbon.
I noticed, John Chambers, you were nodding your head very vigorously, especially when Mr. talks about tax concessions on R&D costs of new technologies. I wonder if you would give us, this is a question asked by Alex in London, some examples of technologies that can be developed to tackle climate change.
Okay, I will. But Lawrence, I'm going to even start with a higher level principle, because I think Al nailed it in the sense that as a country, we've got to say, what is our overall goal, our vision of what percentage we should reduce our emissions, whether you measure by employee or by business, etc. And then you've got to say, to achieve that vision, whether you put out a 5-year window or a 10-year window, here's what the milestones are along the way. Then you explode it down to what are the key goals that we want to do over the next 2 to 5 years to accomplish that vision. Put as many of them numerical as we can. Some of them can be done by private enterprise, some by government, some by regulatory, and I actually think they've got to work together, because otherwise we'll make mistakes along the way. And then you explode it down to what can we do in the next 12 to 18 months, and the example of the investment tax credit for energy alternatives is very key. Our company started with $3.5 million of venture capital, and we never used it. We used their expertise. But if you look at these new startups today, it's common to see 200 to 300 million required for the startup before you know if they're going to be successful. So if you don't incent and leverage that, it's difficult to raise the capital to really focus on it and the jobs associated with it. Now to your specific question. If you watch, and just use Cisco as an example, once we were challenged by Al and candidly by President Clinton on the economic and emissions front, within 2 years, by using collaborative groups, which Sue said, we cut our emissions per employee by an average of over 10% on travel alone related, and saved $150 million. We made our products often 3 to 4 times more energy efficient that we introduced, and enabled that in the data center to make our peers' products, such as servers and storage, 3 to 4 times more effective. We did collaboration with groups I never would have thought about just 2 or 3 years ago. We worked with the mayors in Seoul and Amsterdam and in San Francisco because, as you know, 80% of the pollution comes from cities, even though it's only 50% of the population. You can't leave them out of this equation. And it isn't through regulation we did it. We said, how do we get together and